breadth of their interest in other people and other countries is nil. That's the topic for today's video. Anyways, this is 24th of February, Saturday, 2024, and it's, let me check the time. The time is 8:06 p.m. So I was watching this video on YouTube, and let me check the title. The title of it's a short, and it's Cheeky British Man Destroys America. And it's an old British man, Englishman, I guess. don't you know, like I don't know the particulars of all the words usage and how to call people and stuff, but yeah, that's how I see it. An old British guy, and I believe the interviewer is interviewing him in New York, and basically it's just an interviewer who's let me just show you. So this is the video I got inspired, the video for today. Yeah, so the topic is basically about like in my own experience as well, like this dude, he's at least 70, looks like 70, he might be older, I don't know. They didn't mention the age. I don't think they mentioned the age here, but he seems pretty old. And I'm just 30 years old. I will turn 31 this March 26th. So my experience and this guy's experience is obviously leagues apart. But even in my short 30 years, and I haven't traveled outside India, definitely I have traveled outside my culture, because for those of you who are not aware, I am from Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh, and so like my culture here, even the way I look, like we look here in the Northeast region, differs a lot from, we have the more East Asian look, like Japan, Korea, China, that East Asian side look, and the most of India have done like the more Indian look. I don't know how to categorize it, and I don't want to use some word that might offend someone, but the general Indian look, we differ a lot. You can just look at me, and I bet I look much different from the typical Indian, the look most people associate with Indians. And so for me, I stepped out of my, like from my home, from my own culture, around 2021, I believe. I've traveled outside before that, but I left for college outside completely, like legit stayed outside on my own when I went to college, and that was, I was around 2021 somewhere, and I stayed in Bangalore, and I've stayed there for close to 7 years. So that really opened me up. Even before that, I had I was always, as you guys know, I've been doing the learning Japanese thing, which I'm procrastinating for more than 2 months now, but I'll get back to it. That aside, that's a topic for another day. But even the reason I started on it was because I've always been interested in Japanese music through anime, through games, and then Korean music as well, and all those stuff like outside. And I have genuinely been obsessed with it, like not just watching stuff, just anime, just Korean dramas. No, not that. I was like genuinely obsessed. I would listen to stuff for hours. I would try to learn it, learn the song and stuff. But of course, I was a lazy piece of shit as well. So like I never really tried to learn it properly. But I have like spent so many hours, consuming the content of different cultures, and not just even Chinese as well. Like I follow a few Chinese artists as well. I have not delved as much into the Chinese side compared to Korean and Japanese, but I have indeed, done that. And then me just being interested in the American side of things, the English side of things, the Western side of the world is also me stepping out of my comfort zone. So since I am not like my my mother tongue is Adi, and the Indian or the official language for the state is English, and there's the Hindi from the Indian side. So me be having access to all these different languages that are outside my mother tongue also helped a lot in broadening my own horizons, and especially with how accessible internet became around 2000 here. And for me, it became much more accessible after 2005, when smartphones really started picking up here, and we actually got smartphones of our own. And it was much later in our life, like after around, I believe it was after 15 years, somewhere like that is where we, most of us here, people, my peers who grew up with me from here, my friends, we got access to internet and our own cell phones and stuff around 15, 16, somewhere around that time. And yeah, before that we didn't exactly have, I can't actually even pinpoint, but it was definitely after 2005, if I remember correctly, around 2005 somewhere. So yeah, before that we didn't have access. So most of the things that broadened me was because I had to step outside, try to adjust, and also looking back on it, also to get my, I guess, me not going on rants like I usually do. I'll bring out the comment I made on the same video. I actually made a comment, and I'll just read it out. Usually I try to do these videos, I just want to wing it and learn how to get good at winging it. But for this particular video, I feel like I should stick to what I actually want to say. And I did make the comment already on that video, so might as well read it. So basically what I wrote was, breadth of the interest in other people and other countries is nil. Very insightful point right there. Unlike this man who's much more experienced, even in the short 30 years of my existence, I can't stress enough how crucial it was for me to live outside the culture I was born in, and to have interest in multiple foreign languages and cultures. Interesting thing is, by stepping outside the familiar comfort zone, you not only broaden your general outlook and appreciation for others, but you also learn to truly appreciate your own culture as you look back in from the outside. I genuinely believe that stepping outside your own should be a mandatory part of everyone's growing years. The earlier and younger, the better. So yeah, that's the comment I made on that video, and that's exactly what I feel like. It's I can't even put into words how much it broadened my horizon to be able to know. For example, a lot of things that I thought was normal, like that I used to take it for granted growing up, I realized how different it is for outsiders. Also, some interesting observations I found myself was like, my roommate was an NRI, which is like a non-resident Indian. He was from outside. He grew up in Bahrain. So Bahrain is near Saudi, somewhere there. So among the Gulf countries, if I'm not wrong. So here from our state, Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh, not many people have gone outside. Very few, like so few that I can, like among the whole group of relatives, among the thousands, like everyone who's gone out, we kind of know who did that. So it's so rare, and like that's why. So for us, the people from outside, and I by outside I mean like outside India, is such a far off thing. For like now it doesn't feel that much, at least not to me, because of internet, because of everything. And I have been outside and I've been friends with people from outside as well, so it's nothing that. But for my parents' generation, it's still such a far off thing, and it's seen as like some it's like they the way they look at outsiders is like, it's actually not in a bad way, but it's like they see them as something above above the normal human. So it's almost like, oh, that sort of emotion when they look at someone from outside, from America and from outside, and honestly anywhere outside, like it probably won't even make a difference to them where they are from, which country exactly they're from, as long as they're outside India, unless they're from our neighbors, which is a bit more. So like anyone from the West, most times here, if you one of you are here, one of them are here, people from my own place here, the native people here, or Nachalis, most of us look to them as like someone who's amazing, and who's like from like what's the word, I get superhuman or something. So me having to, like, from that kind of attitude, and me actually being outside and meeting people from outside, like when I was in Bangalore, honestly, it's like a privilege. It literally is a privilege, because I had a decent family who could give me the means to study outside. And because many people here, even now to this day, don't get to study outside. Like most middle classes do, but their majority are obviously below middle class and stuff, and many of them don't get to go outside, and they don't get that exposure that I got. So I am among the privileged. So like when I was outside and I got to meet actual people from outside, and my own roommate who I stayed with for like 1.5 years, the first year like of college and stuff, like they were from outside. And so like meeting people from outside, it broadened me so much, because I despite me being a lot more broad-minded than the typical Arunachali here, even I had those assumptions, and I would look up to people from outside, because honestly, like compared to what we see on the on the TV, back then it was TV, not much of internet, but like what we saw on TV and the news and stuff, where like they're crazy, they're rich, they are all that, they have all this, like the way they grow up must be so much different than us, so much better than us, like, and all that stuff. And so from that mindset to actually meeting people from outside, living with them, and then realizing that many of the things like are so relatable at the same time, as well as different. There are different things, but what shocked me most, like for me, the biggest shock factor of like meeting people from outside was how similar we are. We were much more similar than we were different. So like many of the things where our parents would scream at us and nag at us, stuff like that, small things, what it's like to grow up in a family and all that, what it's like to be nagged by your parents. Like those are such common things. And now especially, it's so easy to like look at the joke, the whole Asian parents joke and all this kind of like humor, where it's like we have all been through things like this, similar stuff. That is, we just take it for granted, but it's so crazy to think like me, who's born in like a very remote region of India, Like my parents' generation, they were still living in forest. So they moved into the town, and then we moved from town to actual like a civilized society. We're like the first or second generation of civilization here. So it's wild to think that like someone like me with my upbringing had so many similarities with someone born in like like in the US, who have like I don't know how many generations of like civilized society US would be in. At least a few centuries. So like compared to few centuries to few decades here, it's wild like that I can laugh at the same things that someone in the US can, you know. And so like all these experiences that really broadened my outlook in life. So yeah, honestly, yeah, I need to get better at this. But my point is, like, it's pretty wild. Like, so when I saw that video of that guy, like, and like I saw went to the comment section and stuff, heard the people talking about it, and to me, the point that stood out to me was the point he made about, like, you know, how many people. That's his observation, not mine. So like, but I feel it's true because I've noticed something similar with like people in more developed places. They tend to be much more in their own bubble. So even in India here, what I've noticed, funny thing I've noticed is like for people of our states, because our states aren't that developed, the Northeast region and all this. So we, even when we grew up, our education system, our study, our books and stuff were coming from the center and from the more developed parts of India. So we studied everything about the whole of India because our books had those. But for states who are all like the developed states of India, like students from there, they, even their GK and stuff, I don't know what goes on, but they don't know very much about our states. Like, it's like when I mentioned, I remember it's like a some see it as discrimination, but I see it as like a funny thing. It's like when we tell them like about Arunachal and stuff, especially back then. Now it's obviously like because of the whole cancel culture and everything, people are much more people are forced to be much more informed about these things. But back then, especially initially, when I say like I'm from Arunachal, it's like, where? Like China and stuff like that. And plus we do look like Chinese and stuff, so we have that more East Asian look. So we were like, you know, many times seen as someone from outside India, someone from China, Japan, or whatever. So or from Nepal for that matter. So yeah, so it's like I've noticed similar things with the mainland India, more developed states of India as well, where their knowledge base and everything they grew up studying and everything revolves around them, and so they didn't ever need to study like the more backward parts of the country. So I think the same thing is going on with the US, because most of the stuff in the internet and everything is revolving around the more developed countries and what's going on in there. So they never felt the need to like learn about stuff from outside in other countries which are a bit far behind compared to their own. And yeah, so like looking back, I actually feel in a way, although yeah, like there are less of opportunities here, and less exposure and all that stuff, like all the things that you miss out on living in a developing country rather than a developed country. But at the same time, I feel sort of privileged and genuinely grateful that I was born in a culture and society that was much behind most, which forced me to learn and get this perspective from like to really like, you know, see what they got and what I don't have and stuff like that. And it also made me appreciate many of the things that most people, most of the world would take for granted, but I don't, because I didn't have that growing up. You know, I wasn't born with the opportunities or the stuff they grew up with, which they started taking for granted, but I cannot because I wasn't born with that. So it's a, yeah, it's a mixed bag. I have mixed feeling about this, but like the central emotion is definitely gratitude. So yeah, that's basically my point here. So the whole video, I don't know how long it's become. Okay, I can see half an hour almost. Yeah, so anyways, I'll keep getting better at this kind of videos where I need to talk and stick to a certain point and stuff. But yeah, that's the video. I probably should do more of videos like this, where, because I often, like you guys can see, like these are notes on Google Keep. I have lots of notes like this, which are like, I even have so this tag, words unspoken, this is a whole level where I like write lots of notes and stuff. So I've been doing it for years, close to 6 or 7 years now. It's actually way more than that as well, but I wasn't using Google Keep back then, just writing notes here and there. So, but since I started using Google Keep about around 6 or 7 years back, I have been doing this, where I'm like chatting around on Reddit, or mostly YouTube, or even Facebook back then, and I would come up with these long ass comments and essays, and I would copy it and then paste it and store it there. Like, yeah, I used to do that a lot. So now that I have this YouTube channel, I feel I should just like obviously I'll write out my thoughts first, which will make it easier for me to put it into words. But later I can look back at those notes I made, and at the end of the day, when I'm making this video, like when I'm doing my daily vlogs, I can just speak on what I rather than just winging it. And this is also me just winging it, but at least I'll have some central point, some central topic, rather than like me just making videos about just checking in. I could actually make video about something meaningful, a bit more meaningful, about some interesting thought or some interesting thing I came across throughout the day. So yeah, that's it. This video has become long again, but this is what I am doing this YouTube channel for anyways. So yeah, good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.